Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the review. This is the summer school edition. That's what we're naming it because we thought it was cooler. Summer school because we're out of school, clearly, and we are both in our homes on two opposite sides of the country. But hey, what's 3 hours? You know? Um, But welcome back to the review. I am your host, Ella Starr. This is the show where we go over everything entertainment news, and naturally, us being the HBCU students that we are, we would have to, of course, review the Black Entertainment Television Awards. Here to do that today with me is our amazing editor and host of the podcast, Takes on the Yard, Mr. Menra Mapfumo. How are you doing at 9 o'clock at night?
Uh, Hello, everyone. I'm good. Life is good. Happy to be here.
We did have some challenges earlier, but we're here now. So let's get straight to it because the award show was very long and there's so much to cover. We're going to start in the city of Atlanta because Tyler Perry recently took ownership of BET as a whole. And so we were expecting changes to come and announcements to come with the BET Awards, and there was no explicit announcement and there was no explicit change to the format or the actual contents of the BET Awards this year. We're expecting to still see some changes, but we don't know when those changes are going to come, whether or not those changes will be announced. But we do know that changes are coming. Most of the BET shows are Tyler Perry shows, so they are already recorded most of the time in Atlanta on the Tyler Perry studio lot. Um, Most of his content is what makes up the actual company's programming, both through the actual cable programming station BET and BET Plus, which is their streaming. So we can expect to see some changes coming very, very soon. However, the BET Awards were hosted in Los Angeles in the Microsoft Theater, as it's been done for quite a bit of time now. It aired on Sunday, and people have been having a lot of mixed feelings about it. Um, so we'll start with the overall biggest feeling and the biggest complaint of the night, in which that the BET Awards are not what they're used to be in terms of engagement from actual celebrities and stars, in terms of performances of people that they're inviting to put on stage, and in terms of promotion and the event. We both study production, so we're going to start with that. I'm going to ask you how you felt about it first before we go over all the ins and outs of what it used to be and what it is now.
Well, and I felt like it was quite boring, to be honest. I think after the Busta Rhymes performance, after he won the Lifetime Achievement Award, that's when I like kind of checked out. That was a lot, honestly. And everything before that, it was cool. But everything after that, like the Lifetime Achievement Award, felt like a finale to the show, but there was still much more after it. But
Mm-hmm.
the Lifetime Achievement Award was just a good way to end the show. They should have done that last. And so once people see Busta Rhymes win this award, give this 10-minute speech, and then do this long set, you know, what am I still watching for? So
That is what a lot of people had to say about it. Just for the, I guess, our source check, when we do the review, we of course go through a lot of credited journal reports, things like Variety, things like the LA Times, New York Times, the Hollywood Reporter. But we also go through what people at home are watching because we are also people watching at home just as much as we are student media. So we also pull a lot of opinions and we work those into the show from things like Twitter, from Instagram. I did a live review of it on my Instagram. It's in my highlights at Ella from LA. But when I was scrolling through Twitter while I was doing those live reviews, a lot of people were saying that they did not feel it necessary to actually finish the awards in its entirety, that they got to a certain point or they got to a certain celebrity that they liked seeing, and then they sort of checked out, that the show was entirely too long for who was actually there and what was the actual content of the show. And as someone who's participated in multiple BET Awards over the course of my, I guess, higher years, my adulter years, I started going to the BET experiences when I was about 12, 13. And I've actually participated 15, 16. Um, LA used to sort of shut down in the same manner that they would shut down for, say, the Grammys or the Oscars, because those are also usually hosted in LA. Hollywood sort of shuts down whenever there's a movie premiere. Like, there are certain streets that you can't use, there are certain freeway exits that you can't get off of. And it is typically the same for BETs, because you typically see a higher caliber of Black celebrities at the BET Awards. um there's also, sort of increases in hotel pricing and rental car pricing in a higher um sort of market, because they know people will be traveling. And you just didn't see that this year. I think that everything in LA, for what the BETs used to be and how celebrated they used to be, LA was very, very quiet for it to be BET weekend. There was no, sort of like bring your kids to the BET experience. There was no let your students do this at the BET experience, which is how I got into most of those events. They would say, come let your students do this, or we need students to participate in a survey or participate in this teen panel. Um, there was sort of none of that, not on the scale that it usually is. And it was a little disappointing, but there was also nobody actually at the BET Awards. Um, Let me not say nobody, because they did have a lot of high profile stars. They did have a lot of popular up and coming stars, but you didn't see who you usually did. So somebody pointed out that Destiny's Child was the first ever performers to grace the BET stage. And then another person commented, joking that if the BET Awards were hosted in Beyonce's backyard, she still would not show up. I understand that Beyonce's on tour. Lizzo, who also usually attends, is also on tour, but we were still missing major stars that are usually there, like Megan Thee Stallion. We were missing Chloe and Halle. We were missing Queen Latifah. We were missing Will Smith. We were missing a lot of people. It almost seems as if the BET Awards has turned into an event for up and coming artists and social media influencers to sort of create content and promote brands. So, how do we feel about that before we get into the actual show?
Honestly, I'll say that the pandemic definitely has a role on the attendance of award shows. Nowadays, everybody, not even just for award shows, everybody, they want something convenient. No, and I feel like a lot of people didn't feel like going to LA, sitting at the award show for hours, and then you know going on about their day. I feel like they'd rather just stay at home, watch the award show. Oh, you won an award, thank you. Um, I'll keep my day going, and I can kind of say that with like other people as well. We don't have after quarantine and the pandemic, we don't have the capacity to just sit in places for hours. Like even if it's meaningful, yeah, even if it's meaningful, we just don't have the capacity to sit at places for hours anymore. And I honestly say the pandemic played a big role into that. So when you see these small artists at these award shows, that they're there because yes, it means everything to them.
Right.
And you have highly decorated artists, like you said, like Beyonce, who's not even going to show up. Beyonce probably sees the BETs like down here, like she's winning all the crazy stuff. She's winning Grammys and stuff like that. And
Well, so I will say that not everybody who was actually nominated in each category was there which usually for award shows, if you're nominated, you are there in case you win, in case you lose. Beyonce, who made history at the 2022 Grammys, showed up late as if she made the decision to go to the Grammys that day.
Well,
So I
yeah,
think Beyonce is a different caliber, period, but you're still missing a lot of people and a lot of star power.
and that's very true. But I'll go back again and say it's just nobody wants to sit down for hours and just sit in a seat and hear people's names nominated every time, even if people are performing. Nobody wants to sit in a Zoom call for hours anymore. Nobody. It's just we don't want to do much anymore, and our brains have been what is the word I'm trying to think of? Our brains have been fixated.
Adapted.
Yeah, we have adapted, fixated, adapted. I'm sorry, I can't English today, but we don't have the capacity for that anymore.
I'll also credit the Writers Guild of America strike to a large part of the reason why a lot of people aren't attending. Um, Janelle James, who plays Principal Ava Coleman in ABC's latest hit show, Abbott Elementary, was in attendance, but none of her co-stars were in attendance. You would think that Contina Burson would be in attendance, but she has been recently actually striking and picketing with a lot of other writers. She started off as a writer and writes a lot of Abbott Elementary herself. And on that note, because the writer strike is in effect, they did not have an actual host for the show because there was nobody to actually write what a host was supposed to say. However, MC Light still voiced the event over and they had presenters fill in instead of a host. So that begs the question, who actually wrote that if most, if not all, union writers are on strike?
A traitor, a traitor wrote it. No, somebody
Um,
behind the scenes, like Brutus from Julius Caesar, like that type of person. Look, like yeah,
I
I'm with y'all on this writer strike, but I'm gonna get my coin too. You know what I'm saying? They pay me a little something right here on the side. They pay me a little extra to write this stuff out for the BET Awards. Now it wasn't good, but hey, whoever it was got their coin.
So Money Long, who was one of the presenters, who is a writer, um, she's a songwriter. She wrote a lot of music for a lot of high profile celebrities before coming out with her hit song "Hours from Hours."
Yours,
Um,
mine's, ours. My bad.
she made a beautiful post. Not a post. She had it sounded like a post, is what I meant to say. She had a beautiful speech to say about the writer strike and how we need to fairly compensate writers for the work that they do, which we strongly believe in. But it was written in a way that sounded like something you would post on a caption on Instagram. Not to mention her eyes were not focused on the camera that was directly in front of her, but focused on a teleprompter. Most of the performers that night were focused on a teleprompter, which teleprompter caused another major problem that we'll get into in a bit. Um, but it just really begs the question, who is writing? It also, I ask who was writing because a lot of these presenters did not stay on script because there was no host and because there was no strict script to go off of. A lot of the a lot of them chose to self promote instead of actually presenting the award and giving the background of the award like you would expect out of an award show.
Ray J.
Um, Ray J happened. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit because why? If we
It's
take a
Ray
step
J.
back,
It's Ray J.
if we take a step back, it's actually a great way to promote this upcoming season of what is he on? Love and Hip Hop? Is he still on Love and Hip Hop?
Ellie, I can't answer that question.
um, it's a great way to promote the drama that is expected to come in the next season of his show. I do remember there being a commercial about it. I'm just not sure if it's Love and Hip Hop or if he has his own show again. However, as someone who is in a dedicated and committed relationship myself, if my partner got on stage after our business has already been aired out on the public, has become the topic of Black Twitter think pieces, and embarrassed me again on national television, I would be upset. I would not have smiled the way she's better than me. I would not have smiled the way she smiled. I feel like, yes, you want to publicly apologize for all the things that you have publicly wronged me for. However, you've already embarrassed me. What is the point of embarrassing me again?
I'm gonna say this: we cannot sit down and try to dissect a celebrity's mind. We cannot. We have seen countless times and times again where celebrities that are in relationships go through these Cartoon Network kind of situations, and then they end up back together. Need I say Christian Rock and Blueface? Nobody
No.
understands what's going on with that. And we don't got to get into it. We can stay on the topic of BET. But if you
Okay.
want to talk about
Okay.
that in another episode, then but I just wanted to say that. That's all I'm gonna say.
I I will say that a lot of Ray J's like fame and popularity has been related to his relationships and his relationship drama rather than, you know, whatever show he was in or whatever music he was releasing. Um but I just felt like that was an extreme little piece of embarrassment that we didn't necessarily need to go through. I thought that um okay, I'll say it. I say it and I'm actively trying to avoid using certain words in conversations about African American people specifically because I know that my goal is to put out content that would reach other people and I would like to change the conversation that people have about us. However, my first thought when I saw that was this is a little ghetto and a little embarrassing, which was the same thought I had not even 5 minutes later when Tiana Taylor won video director of the year and her mother FaceTimed her while she's in Paris. Tiana Taylor had no idea what was going on, which also brings us back to that past point like BET is not picking up stars like they used to. The way she looked shocked and surprised and asked what was going on, even though her mother and her full family were in attendance, leads me to believe that Tiana Taylor had no real idea that she was actually nominated for this BET Awards.
And I feel like that goes back into the promotion of it. Cause
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can ask anybody if they saw multiple promotions for the BET awards and they're going to tell you no. Like this thing was not promoted at all. I remember that you told me you were going to watch the BET awards and you were going to do an episode about it.
correct.
And I said, "Okay, that's cool. I can't wait to do it in the fall." I thought the BET awards were in the fall, winter,
No.
all of that. Oh no, it's
Mm-mm.
tonight. Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's get to it then. I'm genuinely confused, but let's get to it because I didn't hear anything at all about the BET Awards. But
So I remember we did the NAACP Image Awards, which also aired on BET. Um, and that was heavily promoted, and we were meant to do an episode on that. Didn't go as planned. But we figured out that the BET Awards were actually in June and that it would be a summer episode. I had remembered maybe like 2 days before. I was driving down Crenshaw with my mom, and there's a little construction site that's supposed to connect the metro on this side of Crenshaw. And there's a billboard on the fence that was like, hey, BET Awards this weekend. And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit just because, like, we used to all like BT weekend used to be something that you would clear off your calendar. Like people would take off of work for that. Like it would be a family event. I remember one year we had like a youth party, like a youth department church party at my house, and like ordered like 20 boxes of pizza, got like all types of soda, and like sat down on the couch and watched the BET Awards. And it's honestly not like that anymore. I think in part to what is happening on stage. Um, Even Lotto, I think, is a really good performer. Me personally, I think Lotto is a great dancer. I think she has a lot of fun and I think she has a lot of great energy. However, she had a lip sync track and she was not actually lip syncing with the track. So we could hear the fact that it would sound like she's singing in the mic because it's her voice is obviously layered into different things. Um, but she's not actually singing or using the mic on that layer track, which makes us know that she was in fact intending on lip syncing and did not actually lip sync. I thought her performance was still, other than that, was still great. Like I said, she has really great energy, but if like that's on the stage,
No pun
if that
intended.
was one of the first performances, I would be like,
Sorry,
oh, okay.
I had to do the no pun intended thing because you said she got good energy. She got a song called Big Energy. My bad, y'all.
I've been so
I'm gonna be
focused on
here
ripping
all
me out
week
the
though.
plastic.
I'm gonna be here all week though. You ain't getting rid of me. Anyway, my fault.
I've been so focused on rip me out the plastic. It's not I can't remember anything else, you know.
Yeah,
Um which I think Rip Me Out the Plastic is a great way to open the BET Awards. However, we opened with Little Uzi Vert, which
I think they
in
did that because his album is coming out tomorrow night. The Pink
oh, I didn't
Tape.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that would be a good reason. Yeah. Personally, at least from what I've seen, I don't think Little Uzi Vert lands with black audiences the way older black people think he lands with black audiences.
Well, if it's trying to get a different demographic to watch the BET Awards, they're doing the right thing. Because Uzi's black demographic is different from other artists' demographic. Like Uzi and Cardi
Yes.
have similar black demographics, so I feel like it was a good way. And Uzi also has songs that have gone that are hits within all demographics, and people listen to Lil Uzi Vert. Like Uzi
He
ain't
did
some
start with the TikTok song. That's what
people
I've been
listen
calling
to
it.
Lil Uzi Vert. It's not it's nothing crazy. So I think it was a good move, marketing wise and strategy wise by BET.
I mean, the crowd was definitely hype. It was, I'm not going to say it's not a great way. I just think if we're going based off of the crowd reaction, I think they responded a little bit better to Lotto. He opened and they responded, so it was
I will
fun.
say this too. This apparently the songs that Uzi performed, well, the songs that he did perform, they weren't like people had never heard them. Like I think these were
Right.
songs off of his album.
So
So it was
I,
people are going to be more in tune with Lotto because these are songs that they're familiar with and
yeah.
everything like that.
So I didn't recognize the first song that he did, but I did recognize uh the TikTok dance, the one with the hips. That was in the middle of his set. Um that got everybody on their feet, and I think that made everybody able to enjoy the last song of his set, which I didn't recognize either. So I'm just going to assume that that song is also on this upcoming album. Immediately following Uzi, which made people not want to sit down, was the start of the 50th anniversary of hip hop dedication. I think this was the best part of the night. I think this was the best format for BET. Um, they had Kid Cudi. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's go back. Okay, dedication. Immediately following Little Uzi Vert, they started what would be the dedication for the 50th anniversary of hip hop that would flow throughout the show. And I think this was the best format for what the BET Awards had to offer this year. It was DJ'd by Kid Capri, who brought out a ton of different artists. I had to write them down just because it was so stacked. Um, Rightfully so, they started with Sugar Hill Gang. Um, if we're going to talk about the 50th anniversary of hip hop, you either have to start with Sugar Hill Gang or you have to start with New York. New York because that is the birthplace of hip hop, and Sugar Hill Gang because the way Sugar Hill Gang was
Time out, time
promoted
out,
and the
time
way
out, time out, time out. Not just New York.
I promise viewers I will find a way to get out of having a New York co-host one of these days.
Oh no, me and KJ,
Um
we hold it.
I promise. But I say Sugar Hill Gang because Sugar Hill Gang signing a record deal, they became the first to sort of put hip hop through the door on like a legitimate scale. If we want to talk about that, people have been signing rock artists, have been signing pop artists. Nobody wanted to sign hip hop artists. They thought it was a trend, they thought it was a black trend. Sugar Hill Gang came through, actually signed, and opened a lot of doors. So I feel like Sugar Hill Gang was a very appropriate way to start off. um but we also had huge hitters like E40, Big Daddy
Yeah.
Kane, MC Light was there, Dougie Fresh was there, Ja Rule, Redman, Master P, Fat Joe, Remy Ma, T.I., Fabulous, Trick Daddy, Trina, Warren G, Yo Yo, so many more. And then they honored a lot of artists who are deceased who also put in a very large impact on hip hop. They did a dedication to Tupac, to Nate Dogg, to Pop Smoke, Young Dolph, Biggie Smalls, Biz Markie. These are a lot of names. These are really like heavy hitters, not only in Black culture but in music culture specifically. Um, my favorite part is that they got to give their flowers alongside the rest of the regular BET performers like Ice Spice, like Lola Brooke, like Coco Jones, um, because they, as performers, as artists, R&B and hip hop artists, are coming off the shoulders of these major artists who sort of paved the way for not only how people bring in Black culture, but bring in Black music. All that to say, I feel like we were missing a couple people. I feel like we were missing Too Short. We were definitely missing Queen Latifah, Snoop Dogg, Will Smith, Kendrick Lamar. Those are only a few of the names that come to mind. Rumor has it that Will Smith turned down the invitation, that he actually did not want to be there, but it's only a rumor, so we wouldn't know for sure. Um,
Um, I feel like wasn't Queen Latifah. They didn't they do Unity? They did like a Unity performance at the MTV Music Awards, or they did it at the Grammys. I don't remember which one.
Queen Latifah was at the Grammys, and she was also at the NAACP Music Awards.
Okay, all right.
So she was there, but and first off, MC Light is one of my favorites. And MC Light usually voices over the BET Awards and never actually gets honored with her contributions to music at the BET Awards. So seeing her be one of the first to be honored as in that group of heavy hitters, it made me a little bit emotional, but it also made me realize that she was probably there because of the lack of other female performers there. Like, if we're the whole point of that anniversary was not only to honor the artists who make up hip hop, but also to honor their impact to hip hop. And I think if we're talking about impact, we need to bring more female artists into the game. Salt and Pepper was missing in this conversation. I think Nicki Minaj and Cardi B are also owed to that conversation, and they're sort of bringing in how we tie in the modern streaming era of music to hip hop. Um, I think if you have Trina and Remy Ma, you need Nicki Minaj to sort of bridge that gap between like that 90s style and the modern style of hip hop. I think you need the City Girls there because the City Girls put in a huge impact. The Migos did a separate performance later on in the night to make a tribute to Takeoff, which we'll discuss a little later. But I think they also are in that conversation on their impact. I don't think we honored the impact of people enough in this award show.
Mm.
How are we feeling about this specifically before we get into tributes?
Well, I think you're very right. When it comes to the women artists, every single woman artist has paved the way for the next. It wasn't just Nicki Minaj who paved the way for all the women artists we have today. It wasn't
Right.
just Little Kim who paved the way for Nicki Minaj. All of
Right.
them have worked cohesively. They haven't worked at the same time, obviously, and obviously some of them aren't unified, but they all have worked to pave the way for the next. And it was the first person to get it started. There have always been women rappers, and there will always be women rappers. And I think the more that we keep seeing them, like we seen Ice Spice, every song she drops is a hit. You know,
Yeah,
Lola Brooke,
absolutely.
Lola Brooke so far, she's tearing it up right now. Meg Thee Stallion gonna continue to tear it up. Nicki is gonna be Nicki, like ain't nobody gonna stop rocking with Nicki. Ain't nobody gonna stop rocking with
True.
Cardi B. Everybody gonna be
True.
singing "Rip Me Out the Plastic." I've been acting brand new to Lotto for the next 3 years. So it's good to see all of these women artists doing their thing. But yes, you're very right. They should have been honored and they should have been included in this hip hop celebration. And yeah, it just didn't happen for some reason.
I will say that female. I won't say the female rap was completely not honored throughout the night. Ice Spice and Lil Brooke being the up and coming artists that they are also performed. But people also made the mention that because of the setup of the actual tributes, so the tributes in and of themselves were a transition back into the awards from the commercial break. So they only lasted roughly 45 to 60 seconds. Um, and so people questioned if the idea was to honor the impact, then why would we have artists, big artists like E40, like well, Method Man wasn't there. I think Method Man should be in that conversation too. Big artists like E40, like Big Daddy Kane, like Trick Daddy, and have their sets only be about 30 seconds long when like they're going to get people on their feet, they're going to get engagement because they not only do they deserve it, but they embody hip hop. Compared to having Ice Spice be a part of the actual BET Awards and have a 3-song set, which I want to talk about her set a little bit. Because her set was a love letter to hip hop. It was, in fact, a revised version of a set that Cardi B used a couple years back when she performed at the BET Awards. When she performed Bodak Yellow. So that tells you how long ago that set was used. Um, but she was able to perform 3 songs and do them in their entirety on the main stage. BT usually has 2 different stages. They have their main stage where they invite performers. Whatever performer they think is most popular, most viral at the moment, will go on their main stage, and whatever artist that they think is less viral will go on their smaller stage, and that smaller stage is usually sponsored by a different company. Now, the issue that a lot of people had is that every artist, arguably every artist that was a part of the actual BET Awards outside of the 50th anniversary tribute, is a viral artist. Lola Brooks is a viral artist. Ice Spice is a viral artist. Doechii, DeVito, viral artist. Lotto, a viral artist. People found it interesting how they sort of regulated certain people to the smaller stage. And the issue with the smaller stage is that they don't get the same screen time as the main stage. So the smaller stage will the artist will be able to start their performance, but if they perform more than one song, then the second part of their set will become background music to the transition into commercial, which in fact happened to Lola Brooke. Um, she was performing her latest hit, Just Relax, and Just Relax became the background music to MC Light outroing into commercial. And then we moved into later in the night getting 3 songs in their entirety from Ice Spice. Um, I think that the BET Awards should have a singular stage. I think that them continuing to pick and choose artists who they think is going to be big and who they think needs extra help is going to be detrimental into them asking artists to come perform more and more as more A-list celebrities pull out of the BET Awards. Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
for the problem, well, not the problem, for the situation with two stages, I would say that I'm pretty sure BET has done this before and gotten creative with it. I think I remember seeing this before in past years. But you know, something special like for the hip hop celebration, something special they could have did had one group of hip hop performers on the main stage and had another group on the other stage and just cut back and forth between each other while they rapping and stuff like that, or performing their songs. That would have been kind of cool to see. I don't think they should could I don't think they should like ultimately get rid of the second stage and just do one main stage, because I also think that becomes an issue with time. You know, like I said earlier, people don't want to be there for hours, and then you have one stage, and then something goes wrong, then you know it's going to take up a lot of time to fix that stuff. But you have a second stage to fall back on, and vice versa.
Right. So the BET Awards is held in the Microsoft Theater, which is set up. I don't really know how to explain the setup. So the way the BET Awards set up their stages is essentially how the space is set up. There's a main stage, and then there's two like smaller bubbles, if you will, that are connected to the main stage. So if a performer wanted to, because the Microsoft Theater is usually used for concerts, they can walk all the way down towards that bubble, into the three separate bubbles. One is connected to the bigger main stage, and then the other two smaller stages. The further through the bubbles you get, the closer to the audience you get, depending on how seating is set up.
Hmm.
Um, so all the stages are connected, and they separate the stages with their camera angles essentially.
Okay.
So one of the stages was in fact used for hip hop, so they wouldn't have to move uh, the DJ table. One was the Verizon stage, which Verizon is usually the sponsor of that stage, and then the other was the main stage. Um, but even the difference, so like Ice Spice got a whole set, Doechii got a beautiful set, like almost like a Barbie penthouse kind of set, and Lola Brooke got curtains, essentially curtains and backup dancers.
Mhm.
Like
I,
it's
I
a
I feel like
it's a
okay. I
huge
feel like
difference.
that's wrong. That's wrong because you have Ice Spice, who you said she had the Cardi B set that she used during Bodak Yellow, right?
It was definitely upgraded. Like it was definitely more personalized. They added a subway station that she
Right.
used in the last song, but it is essentially the same set. Yes,
So what I got from it was a New York street with a New York subway station, and
basically.
she was showing where she's from. Now, why can't Lola Brooke get a similar set? I know Joe Lola Brooke isn't as big as Ice Spice, but like she's also from Brooklyn,
Is
so
she? I thought she was from the Bronx.
no, she's from
Okay.
Brooklyn, so she should be able to get a similar set as well. She shouldn't have to get no curtains. Like that's messed up.
I also think, in terms of virability, like the songs that Ice Spice performed, of course, were all the songs that went viral on TikTok, because I think people are using that as the marker in viral music. But Just Relax also went very viral on TikTok. Um, the same with Doechii songs. The songs Doechii performed also went viral on TikTok. Um, I just don't know. I want to know the exact criteria and how they delegate which person gets onto the stage, because if they're not careful, which I don't think they were exactly being careful, what gets construed as is Ice Spice and Lola Brooks, who were from the same place, who were on sort of the same stardom trajectory, with the exception of their skin color. Ice Spice gets to do the main stage prime time, and Lola Brooks. Um, which is the Black Entertainment Network, I don't think colorism is what you want to get caught up in terms of how you're promoting artists.
I didn't even
Especially
think
because
about it. I just thought about it as
I didn't think about it like that until I was going through Twitter responses to some of the
yeah.
comments that I made. Um and commenting on certain, actually going through BET's Twitter, um, and reading some of the responses that people made. Um, I think as a community, it you really have to take a step back and look at like what people are saying, especially your people, and how they're like taking in stuff, because that's what a lot of people took it in as. And I don't
Well,
think that way, but I'm also a lighter skinned woman, so I don't
right.
necessarily take most things that way. Um,
Well, I'll say that could very well have been the reason. And just for another reason to throw in there, I mean, Ice Spice, she did become more popular before Lola Brooke. Like, Ice Spice has a song with
Absolutely.
Nicki Minaj already. She has two songs with Nicki Minaj, and she's getting a lot of attention. And then on top of that, you have to take into account like the stuff she does with her body, like that's a lot of stuff people go for as well. So yes, colorism could be a role into that, and but also you just have to look at where they are in the level of hip hop up until this point.
So I will say, so Coco Jones also performed that night, and she did a beautiful rendition of "I See You," which is one of her hit songs. She actually won an award for that song that night as well. I remember a couple years back, Coco Jones did a cover on the Verizon stage, on the smaller stage, and she got cut off in the middle of the cover. Um, And I remember people were like, "Isn't that that Disney girl that we used to listen to sing all the time?" Like, if the point was to showcase her talent, why would you cut her off?
Right.
Because that's essentially what the Verizon stage is for. It's for young talent, up and coming talent. So if you have up and coming talent that you're supposed to be promoting, I also think that you should give them the screen time, because that's what you've told them that you're gonna do, and that's not what you end up doing. Um, on that note, Coco did like an old school R&B type of performance, like stood in the rain with the mic on, with the full orchestra behind her, like 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 gripping in the rain, like clutched fist usher in the rain performance from Coco Jones after crying on stage after winning an award. She took home 3 awards that night. So, Disney who? We have 3 more performances to cover. Only 3 more. But I feel like this also speaks to how long the night was. The fact that we've been talking for at least 30 minutes and we still haven't gotten through everything. Um, let's go to Offset and Quavo. Let's go back to them. So Offset and Quavo were a part of the Migos. Offset, Quavo, and Takeoff were the Migos. Migos had a very, very big impact, I would say, on hip hop, on bringing back the fact that the South was a major part in the development of hip hop. Um, and the Migos are also credited to what a lot of people call mumble rap, um, which became a serious trend, which opened the doors for a lot of other young men to actually come in and make a name for themselves in the rap game. um, as we know, Takeoff unfortunately passed after a shooting in Texas. And we know before that that Offset and Quavo were on some pretty bad terms, and Takeoff was sort of the middle ground in between those terms. And when he passed, those tensions rise really high. And at the 22 BET Awards, they got cussed out by Offset's wife, Cardi B, for actually getting into an argument and trying to start a physical altercation backstage. This is the first public appearance that they have done together, both since his passing and since the Migos have broken up.
Yeah, it's like you said, Takeoff is the was the middle ground, and they did have stuff going on prior to his death, and Takeoff dying was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was
Absolutely.
it was, and I feel like a lot of it. I feel like those problems wouldn't have been resolved. The Takeoff would have just, those problems would have been resolved sometime, and
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the reason they continue to be after his death was just because of grief, and one of them may have been blaming the other for it, or they could have been blaming themselves, and it was just, a lot of times you just that's how you cope, and yeah.
I think it was nice seeing them back together. As much as I love Offset as a solo act, I don't love Quavo as a solo act all that much, truth be told. Um, I loved Unc and Neff though when him and Takeoff were um doing their as amigos. Um, I'm not necessarily gonna say that Quavo needs Offset because I think Quavo can make good music on his own. It's not my cup of tea, but clearly he makes good music on his own because people enjoy his solo music. Um, but I do in fact think that Offset and Quavo make better music together. They perform better together than they do by themselves.
Because that
So
chemistry is never going to be destroyed, no matter how much they hate each other. That chemistry is never going to be performed. You put a mic in their hands, they get on the stage, they're going to give you a performance, and it's going to sound good no matter what.
which sidebar, I've been calling Offset Giselle, as in Beyonce Giselle, just because Quavo likes to like bop when he performs, but Offset wants to do like a full 16 count, like choreographed, like I need 20 backup dancers behind me. I need the billboard to reflect what I'm doing. Um, I think my favorite, the best part of the about their performance is that it was in the tribute block. It was counted as a tribute to Takeoff and to hip hop. But they also stayed on opposite sides of the stage as if there was another person in between them. And in the background, there was a space shuttle that signified takeoff, actually leaving the planet. I thought that was so cute. It made me tear up a little bit.
It's
I'm an
it was
emotional person already, but it was just like,
and it was really nice to see. And they've said it many times that there is no Migos without Takeoff, and Takeoff is the best Migo, and that's very true. And
I agree.
to see to see them come together and then have that symbolism in between them is
Yes.
is poetic, and that's what rap is. It's poetry, and so it felt really good
Um,
to see that.
it felt amazing to see that. Speaking of tributes that did not make us emotional, we lost the great Tina Turner this year, the queen of rock and roll, and everyone has been throwing their hats in to honor her and honor her legacy, which is so, so, so well deserved. Um, and for the BET Awards, they asked Patti LaBelle to actually perform the tribute. She walks on stage. She was singing Simply the Best, and she started the song, and about like, I want to say like 20 seconds into the song, she started singing Help. And then she asked for her backup singers. And then she said, I can't read the words. Y'all help me. Can't read the words. And then she sort of filled in the rest of the song with like high notes and a couple falsettos and a couple riffs here and there and a couple
Oh
runs.
God. Mm-mm.
Um, and then was just like, okay, to the chorus, simply the best. And then was like, I can't read the teleprompter. And then she sort of like walked off the stage and was like, thank you, BT, Tina. And then left. I'm gonna let you comment first. I'm gonna let you comment first before I go
Man,
all the way
look,
off.
it's Patti LaBelle. That's Auntie. You know, we everybody loves Patti LaBelle, but yeah, that's not what you want to see in a tribute. Like that's not a tribute. That's I'm putting this together,
Yeah.
and now that I don't know what I'm doing, I'm on live television, and I'm embarrassed. But it's once again, it's Patti LaBelle. People gonna love her the next day anyway. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like many people weren't too upset about it. It didn't cause a big uproar on social media. But once again, that's not a good tribute to Tina Turner.
Yeah. So the majority, when I saw it, I actually, because I was doing the sort of live reaction to it, I actually deleted like the two videos, the first two videos that I made about it, because I felt like I was being harsh because like this is auntie. And my mom pointed out the fact that Tina Turner didn't spend a lot of time with her peers when they were like becoming the major artists that they were. And I mean, there was a lot of reasons that she didn't. And there was a lot of very good reasons that she didn't. Um but I felt like it was no excuse personally. Um yes.
Am I wrong to say that I think Angela Bassett should have performed the tribute?
I don't think
Or
Angela
I mean,
Bassett would have been there. I don't think
I'm
she would
saying
have came.
if they asked her to do the tribute, I think she would have been there. I think she would have done it. It would have been nice to see, especially after the big letdown that the Academy caused a lot of Black people in the community to have.
Sidebar, complete and total sidebar. Angela Bassett will receive an honorary Academy Award in about a month for her contributions to film, acting, and her amazing career. Mind you, they specifically said, the Academy in the memo specifically pointed out that it was for her amazing career and that she is a veteran in the game. However, those exact things is what they said gave Jamie Lee Curtis her Academy Award, which we talked about in the actual Oscars episode, which is on YouTube. So go watch it.
Hot dog
Um,
fingers.
so the conversation still would have been vet against vet, as we discussed in that last video. But I feel like the academies have finally admitted we went with the white girl. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I
That was
was
my
done.
digression.
I'm done.
That
That
was
was it.
that
Hmm.
was my take on the yard, if you will. Just my take on the yard. You should go watch that too. Um, Honestly, I think Angela Bassett would have been a great choice. I don't think she would have came, to be honest.
What's love got to do? My bad.
I think Patti LaBelle looked amazing. And I get that people defend her because even when I talk to my mom about it, um, my mom and my grandma who actually grew up with Patti LaBelle and like watched her progression as she progressed in life, um, they both were kind of like, she's done a lot for the music industry and she's done her diligence and she kind of deserves to like forget words every once in a while. And I absolutely agree. However, this is like the third or fourth time on a very large scale that Patti LaBelle has not known the words to an event that she was contracted for or asked to perform at, and she blamed the teleprompter and she blamed the people around her. I think we're talking about a tribute to one of the most, if not the most, influential Black women in music. I feel like she deserves the respect of you knowing the words or you going to practice to, get in time with the teleprompter. There was a girl who posted a video on TikTok who said that the section that she was standing in at the BET Awards were actively standing in front of the teleprompter. But Simply the Best is just such a huge song that you would imagine that somebody like Patti LaBelle would actually know the words to it. And given the fact that it was a tribute to somebody who is no longer with us, you would also respect them enough to learn the words to the song.
Right.
Um, and it didn't happen. Um, I was a little disappointed and a little angered at it because I feel like out of all the tributes that have been done for Tina Turner, This one is so like lackluster, and it's at the Black Entertainment Music Awards that is kind of like it's a reminder almost of how much people were talking about the fact that Tina Turner stopped actually interacting with her Black peers and with the Black community because of sort of the lack of engagement in her life after Ike. I don't want to say that this is a reminder, but it feels like a reminder. It does. And I think it's unfortunate.
I think I would call it a coincidence. That's what I would call it. It's a
A coinky
coincidence
dink.
that Patti LaBelle could not learn Tina Turner's song, and then Tina Turner also did not chill with her fellow black peers. And
I will
I
say at the
think
time, though, if we're going to go over the timeline of Tina Turner's life, at the time, I don't think she was allowed to by management and by her then husband.
that's ridiculous.
That's a whole different story in its entirety, but you know, I feel like her life deserves context and her life deserves honoring that was not given at the BET Awards.
Yeah.
Um, On to what should have been, in your words, the last performance of the night. Buster Rhymes won the Lifetime Achievement Award this year. He was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think Buster Rhymes was a great choice, especially in the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Um,
Turn
all
it
through the
up.
night. Okay. All through the night, they had different videos. And right before he gave his speech, different videos of people talking about what hip hop meant to them and what Buster Rhymes meant to them. And Smino actually said that Buster Rhymes and listening to Annie Up was what made him get into music and what made him get into hip hop. Um, I am a huge advocate of giving people flowers while they're alive. So I'm so happy that Buster Rhymes got to do this while he was alive and that we got to honor him while he was alive. And he walked up on stage and he was crying, which made me cry. And then he sort of got it together and he thanked a lot of his team, a lot of the people that he's collaborated with. He started with all of his kids, which made me cry again. Um, and then gave what I think is one of the best performances that has been seen at the BET Awards in the past 5 years. Sort of a summary of his entire career of hip hop, but at the same time that it's a summary, it's also almost a summary of hip hop in and of itself because he's just so involved. Um, so he brought out a bunch of artists. Well, he started with his own music, of course, started with his most popular song, started with his chart choppers. And then he brought out different people to honor his Jamaican and New York roots. And then he brought out just some people because he said, hey, why not? My favorite part, truthfully, truth be told, was Coil Ray. Not because of Players, which might be one of my least favorite viral songs out of all the rap girlies right now. Um, it just doesn't make sense in my mind. Like it's fun, it's catchy, but it just doesn't register up here. My favorite part is because of the outfit that she wore. The outfit that she wore was this sort of like white, I want to say snowsuit. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Um, but it had her name across the chest, and then it had miniature patches of different women in the rap game, both currently and, sort of veterans of the game, as a way to honor them and honor the people that came before her. Um, it was one of my favorite pieces. Like, I think that outfit was so cute. I think it's something that I would definitely like. I could see that look definitely being recreated for an HBCU homecoming. Like, I could see somebody recreating that look with like the founders' names or like the
I
most
think it was a I
influential
think it
like
was
professors.
a motor outfit.
Was it?
I think so.
It was cute. It was appropriate for the night. I loved it. Loved that idea. Um, but Thea was also there. Scarlett, Spliff Star, Rod Digga, uh, Spice, Buddy Banks, and some more people to honor Busta Rhymes. I think it was the best performance of the night.
Look, I'm gonna say this about Buster, and it's not just because I'm from New York. When some, I guess there are a lot of older artists that you would think the younger generation will not be familiar with. Busta
Right.
Rhymes is not one of those people. I mean, like a lot of us grew up knowing who Busta Rhymes is. Everybody has heard "Look at Me Now," and they try to rap his verse from
Yeah.
"Look at Me Now" with Chris Brown and Lil Wayne, and then on top of that, everybody I think this is the most universally known song, A Tribe Called Quest scenario.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that Buster was a part of A Tribe Called Quest. I learned that he wasn't.
What?
However,
What?
look, I know I was a kid. Chill. I'm thinking he was a part of A Tribe Called Quest, but I learned that he wasn't. But I was on top of that, I was also introduced to A Tribe Called Quest, and I'm saying that I say that to say everybody knows Buster, and everybody
Yeah.
understands how important he is to the game of hip hop. And so to actually see him be honored like that, when I guess some people would never think that was possible, it was really nice and really nice to see. And then his performance on top of that, he just took the house down. Once again, that they should have closed the show with that. There should have been nothing else after that. You don't have this man do an emotional 10-minute speech, then do this
Yeah.
crazy performance, and then have somebody else perform right after. No,
Yeah. Because that's the point. I wouldn't
right.
go on stage.
That's what I'm saying. Like that is the end. Close the curtains. And then
I
on
will
top of that,
say,
I'm
okay,
not like this.
okay,
This gonna sound crazy. On top of that, they should have made it the last performance, and then they should have handed out roses to every single person in the stands, in the audience. Close them curtains and let them throw it on the stage. Done. I'm done. I'm done.
you're done. That's it.
Yeah, I'm done. That's it.
I think the New York bias definitely came out there. I do.
Turn it
Um,
up.
I will say, and this is, I think, where we're going to end our show today. Um, he said something really interesting in the sort of like sit down interview on how he feels about his career and actually winning the Lifetime Achievement Award. And he mentioned starting off as part of a group and wanting to stay in that group, and saying that he much preferred to stay like in the realm of they tell me to show up, I do a verse or I perform on a stage, they pay me, and then I walk away. I don't deal with management. I don't deal with PR. I don't have to do any of that. And the idea of becoming a solo artist didn't entice me until I knew I had to. I wanted to get your opinion on that because I thought it was a very interesting thought. Of course, he was a lot younger when he made that when he had that school of thought, but it also like begs the question, what happens if these people don't leave these groups? Like Busta Rhymes left that group. Like what would have happened had Beyonce not left Destiny's Child? Like what would have happened had Harry Styles not left One Direction? Like it kind of begs that question, and I think that's where we're going to end our show. So I want your opinion on that. On the
It's
bird leaving the nest.
it's all about growth. Beyonce leaving Destiny's Child was a part of her growth. Busta Rhymes leaving that group was a part of his growth. What's it called? Otis Redding. He was in the Temptations, right?
Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
Look, he left that group. He left that group. The one of the only Otis Redding songs I know is the song that Jay Z and Kanye sampled. Uh, Otis. It
Oh,
makes
okay.
it easier. So yeah, like easier to bet. My bad. But and that's growth. It's I don't know. When groups stay together, things tend to fall apart. It's like a business. You start a business, you start elevating, you reach your peak, things start going really well, and then something happens. It could be money related, it could be relationship related, but something happens where it creates a small tear in the group, and then the tear gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And
I
so you
mean,
need to separate yourself in order to grow. So
music quite literally is the business, though, if we want to talk about that. That reminds me a little bit of Little Mix, who a lot of people thought weren't going to survive after Jesse Nelson left, and then they put out an album that charted tops. However, two out of the three members of the group got pregnant at the same time. Um, that third member put out, I, I don't think it was a whole album, I think it was an EP afterwards, because how else do you continue to stay in the game? Like, how else do you stay relevant and stay usable to these people unless you're actually like going and creating on your own, which is something I think about a lot as we sort of prepare for our real life careers, um, as students, at least, as someone who's not going to be a student for much longer. Um,
sorry.
it's just things to think about and more things to talk about. Um, I think we're gonna end here. There was just so much that went on that night. It's just hard to fit it in an episode that should be like an episode. Um, we will, however, be back with more news. How could we not? Barbie and Oppenheimer are coming out oh so soon. Um, and school is rapidly approaching. Could you believe?
Yeah, I
We're
can.
going to. You can. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
Well,
can.
excuse
I
me.
can do it. Yeah.
Um, all I can say is thank you so much for watching the review and joining me, Ella Star, and my lovely co-host for the time being, Mr. Menra. If you haven't already, do go back and watch our episode on the Oscars, where I go over the 2023 Oscars with my other co-host, Mr. KJ. Also, take a look at Takes on the Yard, which I joined Menra last week, and we talked about some different trade deals and their values, because she's a multifaceted journalist, obviously.
I can't even spell
Um,
multifaceted. My fault.
um, yeah, do that and keep an eye out because we're definitely going to come out with a review on Barbie and on Oppenheimer. And when we get back to school, we're going to do a summer review and a review on The Idol. I had to say it slowly just in case it triggered anybody from all the news
It
circulating The
triggered
Idol.
me.
Apologies.
It triggered me. We didn't even get through the first episode, and it was so bad.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to barrel through it so we can make an episode about it, though.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, everyone.